So this is the story of me renovating this sewing machine. It was in really good shape when we got it, but it needed, a fair bit of work to get it restored and working properly. This Naumann Treadle sewing machine I bought in 2020 for 20 euros here in Mainz, Germany, where we're living. And it is a transverse bobbin. The bobbin's here, and it goes into this bobbin case, kind of like that. Just drops in there, closes. Of course, it needs to be threaded. This particular model is number 339. It still has the Untitled and Naumann sticker or award or whatever you call that badge. And I have no idea what year it was made because no year is in the product booklet or on the machine itself. And I believe that it is prior to 1920, sometime between 1880 and 1920. Like some of the designs in the metal and the base. Just a disclaimer, I am by no means an expert. This is the only and first machine I've ever renovated. So if you have questions or comments, I would appreciate them. I made this video purely to keep track of when I dismantled things, how I could put them back if I forgot how they were put together. Every machine is different, and I found almost nothing on the Naumann machines in YouTube or the internet searching, so I thought a document for this particular machine would also be useful. And it was actually kind of in working condition when we got it. We needed to get a new belt to get it to operate properly. In the early 1900s, these machines cost quite a good bit of money. Back when this machine was sold, it probably, whatever form of currency they were using at the time, wasn't even Deutsche Marks. It was some, or D-Mark. It was something before that. But I know that in the 1950s, machines like this could cost a family's entire year's paycheck to purchase. I mean, okay, maybe they didn't have this exact machine available in the 1950s, but similar types could cost something like 5,000 Deutsche Marks at that period of time, which would be 500 euros. And back then, in 1950, 500 euros was really a lot of money. But this particular machine was probably one of the higher end models. And I'm basing that purely on the product booklet that is still with it, that actually shows them stitching these pretty modern designs and monograms. So and some of these monograms. This booklet's fallen apart. I need to take pictures to preserve it. but it shows a list of every single part you could order to fix your machine. And these machines were worth fixing because they were not cheap. So you will see what I have done to preserve this machine and get it in working condition again in the next pictures and videos. The first thing I did was clean the machine, metal, wood, everything, with a simple, unscented, olive oil based soap and water. Once I let the wood dry from cleaning, I took some of this really fine sandpaper and lightly sanded all of the wood of only the tabletop, not the dust cover. Because these antique machines are typically a very thin veneer, there's not a lot to work with to sand away, so you have to be careful and sand very lightly to get an even consistency in the appearance of the wood. Because the wood had some pretty serious tannin circular stains, this is the first thing I did after sanding, was remove those stains with this Woka tannin spot neutralizer. This says for oak, but my machine isn't oak, so it didn't matter. It still removed the tannins really nicely. Once the tannins were removed from the wood, this was my next product that I used to clean all of the wood and condition it. It actually, adds some moisture back and cleans the wood. And I especially had to use this on the dust cover because it was quite faded from, the elements. This is obviously a German product. There's probably something similar in other countries. This product is made in Switzerland, so if you want to know the ingredients, you'll have to translate it, Google it and translate it, just to see if a similar product has similar ingredients. Once the wood was cleaned and finished with the Renewal, I used just plain boiled linseed oil to condition the wood. I did this probably 4 or 5 times. You have to let it dry thoroughly in between coats. And it takes like 6 weeks, something like that, 4 to 6 weeks for it to harden enough. But it gives a very nice waterproof finish and a hard finish. Once all the wood was restored, I set to cleaning the parts of the actual sewing machine. And that included using WD-40 on everything. It tends to kind of dry out more than just regular oil. So just plain WD-40 isn't enough, but it's a really good cleaning agent for all of the moving parts and also to improve the look of the machine, the paint surface of the machine as well. And then, of course, for oiling all of the parts, just plain sewing machine oil. If you buy it like this, in this quantity, it's usually pretty expensive. You can get a larger quantity cheaper. And then finally, for all of the metal parts, whether they were brass or steel, my favorite polishing product is Peak, and it does a really fine job. I believe Peak is available both in the UK and North America, and probably elsewhere. I'm not sure where the actual manufacturing takes place, whether it's the US or the UK, but there's distributors in both countries. have this 100% cotton crochet yarn, and I'm going to like triple layer it. Okay, I could have chosen sharper scissors. And then I have this peak polish. I'll put a little bit on there. Probably overusing it, but and then I just take the yarn and wrap it and smear it around and try to get a sheen back to the metal. And you can see how dirty the yarn is getting, and at the same time you can see how the post is cleaner than the one next to it. And you probably have to do this a few times until it's not quite so dirty anymore. And then I can do the same thing on any of the round objects, except this one is spinning. Okay, you can see how shiny that came out now. And I just needed to press it up against there to make sure that that part didn't spin anymore. And then these are now, you can see a reflection in those. Much cleaner. I took to polishing these other pieces all throughout, on the sides, the screws, the plates. Here's how it sounds before cleaning. Not too bad. It was kept in pretty good shape. So I'll be cleaning it now, which means I have to dismantle several things in order for that to happen. So first I'm removing the screws off this plate. There's a screwdriver that came with the machine, or with the supplies that were with the machine. So there's only 2 screws on this plate that remove it. And it looks a little complicated because there's so many objects on the end of this plate. There's the screw here on the foot pedal. There's a screw here for adjusting, screw here, screw here. There's the tension knob with a screw. And then there's tension coils there. But really all you need to do is those 2 screws. And this whole thing then comes apart. You can see it's pretty oily, greasy. I think I have to release it. So once it's released, this whole piece comes out. I don't know how much I want to bring that out though, because that tension spring is in there. Just slides right back up in there, apparently. But anywhere something slides, like the foot, you want to oil in there. But of course I need to clean that out first. And then the other thing is this hole has the needle and these things. Obviously where you put in your new needle with this device. I'm probably not going to take that apart, but I might to clean it up. You can see a lot of really bad grease here, along here, along here. And then you can see inside here, there's this thing that spins. And I'll be cleaning up all that as well. There's grease, old grease in there. I'll be spraying this directly on the cloth. And the only reason I'm using this is to clean. It will dry out, so it does not maintain a good lubricant. It's all the gunk that's coming out of there. It's really good to use the WD-40 for the outside of the machine, cleaning any rust or buildup, because it evaporates and does not leave the machine oily on the outside. You can see that the WD-40 really polishes up the metal. All right, I finished cleaning it, and I polished it with this. Peak. Got pretty shiny. So I'll be back after I finish cleaning that. Wound up taking this apart with the spring. I was afraid I wouldn't be able to get it back properly, but it works just fine. As you can see, it's substantially cleaner. This is quite a lot cleaner as well. I polished the chrome on the foot, and now I have to put this back together, and that goes right back in there. The foot can go up and down now. Probably have to wire, I'll have to oil in there to make sure it glides properly. I already put this piece back on after I cleaned it. Now, there, snapped right back together. Oh, look at that. I haven't even oiled it and it's smoother. I have some sewing machine oil. All right, I got it open. And there's a little hole right here. And there's a place right in here to apply the oil as well. And then there's, I know you can't see it from there, but there's a place to put oil. And I just can't believe the difference this has in the way it turns now, just from that little bit of cleaning. I haven't done the foot plate area yet either. So I've already removed the screw that was here. I'm not sure where I put it, but and then this needs to just open. And it's resting on this so that it's not overextending. If it does overextend, you'll need to put books or something under there to prop the machine up. You can see I haven't really cleaned this part yet. And then there's mechanics under here that need to get cleaned. So here you can see, hey, it's not too bad. It's part of the transverse bobbin thing that pops it out. All right, it's been totally cleaned. There's the underside, and you can't even hear it now. It was oiled on all of the moving parts and the holes that it recommended. And then I also replaced the felt pads inside so that it closes softly. So just to take a look at the machine after it's been cleaned and reconditioned. There's a couple of spots in the veneer that got completely damaged, but I'll just leave those the way they are. But all of the tannin has been removed. There's a gouge here. I could fill that gouge and color it, but I'll just leave it the way it is. If a sewing machine is used all the time, it only has to be oiled and cleaned 1 to 2 times a month, but if it's been unused for a long time, it should be cleaned and oiled before using it again. So to clean it, you essentially need to raise the foot and raise the needle to its highest position. And then get out any, thread, grease, oil, whatever might be there, dust. So essentially where there's any moving parts, you need to oil in some places, but in particular, think any of these holes, like this hole, this hole, this hole. I also oiled down in here. This is in this section where there's movement. And there's a hole here. And there's a hole here. And there's a hole in here. There's a hole back here. These are just screw holes to hold on some plates. So you can move this plate, and inside there you can take a Q-tip and clean. You can take some WD-40 and clean in there first before you oil it. You can turn the wheel for that gear, and then you can also put maybe just 1 drop of oil on those gears. And underneath this badge, there's a hole right here. This is the bobbin winder, and there's a hole right here. That little hole, of course, keeps that spinning properly. This sets the tension. This knob, you can oil down in there. On the top of the machine here, there's a hole. It's for this to spin more freely. There's places under the machine that need to get oiled too, like the bobbin holder. You can see how the bobbin holder slides, so the surfaces that meet need to get oiled, but that's usually done underneath, maybe above. In order to tip the machine back by pressing here, you have to remove this screw first. Only just this screw. Once it's gone, you can tip the machine back, but you also have to make sure you remove the leather drive belt. So this plate right here is what needs to be removed in order to clean all of the stuff that's moving in there, and oil it in there as well. So I'm threading a bobbin on my treadle sewing machine by hand. I cleaned, polished, and renovated the machine today, and the belt broke because the leather was too old. But I can still wind this by hand just to get an idea of what happens. The machine's running really well now. Here we go. But you can hear the machine is really super quiet now. And it's winding perfectly on the bobbin. Okay. All right, I have here a fabric guide, and I've set on this piece of paper. It's either 5/8 of an inch or 1.5 centimeters approximately for seam allowance. And I'll set this up. I will show you when I'm done. So I lowered the foot and put the needle in place so that when I turn or sew, you can see it stays even and consistent. I'm not guiding this paper at all, so it might go off. Hold the camera with one hand and spinning it because I have no belt yet. I'm just spinning the wheel with my hand. You can see it's gone off because I'm not holding the paper. In any case, you get the idea. So today we got a new drive belt for the Treadle sewing machine. The last one, the belt was so old that it needed to be shortened, and so we tried to put in another hole and it just split. And any shorter would have been too short, so we had to get a new one, and it came from Spain. They sent it out yesterday and we got it today.
The foot seems to be too high, if you ask me.
Alright, that's how it turned out. The stitching. It gives a really beautiful stitch. That's one side. There's the bobbin side. Looks like the tension needs adjusting a little bit.
Huh?
It works with the belt now.